All right, greetings. Welcome back. So, on the last part, we looked at the first part of Reconstruction. What were some of the questions that Reconstruction posed for the country? This one, we're going to look at the first phase of Reconstruction. So, there's three phases. There is presidential Reconstruction, there is congressional Reconstruction, and then there is redemption. So we're just looking at presidential Reconstruction in this video. So to start off with, Abraham Lincoln, again, motivated, going back to the first part of the essay prompt, he's motivated by his belief that the South never legally and politically seceded from the Union. That was an illegal act, so it'll make it more seamless. So he wants to continue that motivation. He wants to make sure that the Civil War ends in a lasting peace. And so to that end, take a look at this plan, the Abraham Lincoln 10% plan, right? So the first thing is the former Confederate States of America, the South that seceded, must abolish slavery. That is, they must accept the 13th Amendment ratified in 1865. And then, and this is where radical Republicans like Thaddeus Stevens are going to get frustrated with Lincoln. 10% of the voters must take a loyal oath to the Union. All right, so this isn't a very tall ask for the South, and so a lot of people in the North are going to get frustrated over this particular aspect. But again, Lincoln is trying to go for a long-lasting peace. Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana complied, but later Congress is going to reject this. So basically only 3 states are going to comply with Lincoln's so-called 10% plan. And when Congress takes over the process of Reconstruction during the second phase of Reconstruction, those are going to be thrown out anyway. And so the objections, again, was 1, excessive presidential power, and really no real provisions for newly freed people. Yes, slavery is abolished, but what does it really mean to be free if you have no land, you have really no skills, you aren't educated, and you are living within a society that despises you, mistrusts you, and is very apt at being violent at you. Again, referring to the former slaves. So, just to recap, 10% plan is announced, December 8th, 1863, during the Civil War. The president announces basically that there will be Reconstruction and the president will lead it. And again, it's to get the South back into the Union quickly. And then later, the 10% plan is announced once the Civil War is over, and the 13th Amendment is ratified of that same year. One of the reasons why the 10% plan was short-lived is that this famous scene right here. In April 15th of 1865, President Lincoln is assassinated by John Wilkes Booth in a theater. And this really is going to change the course of history for better or worse. This is an interesting what if Lincoln had lived. Once you have a good grasp of congressional Reconstruction and how much it went forward with really trying to politically and economically empower African American men in the South, one has to speculate how much Lincoln would have pursued that avenue. While he was alive, there wasn't very much evidence that he would have. Again, motivated by trying to keep the South in the Union and having a long-lasting peace. And the other thing that's going to happen as a result of this assassination, and keep in mind too, Lincoln had incredible, what's referred to as political capital. So he has won the Civil War, and the American people love him, right? And when he is assassinated, this gentleman takes over. This was his vice president, and this guy is going to be wholly ineffective as a vice president. Couple of things working against him, right? Andrew Johnson. He was a Democrat, and he was put on the ticket in 1864, so as he comes into his second term. He's put on there, and as a Democrat and as a Southerner from Tennessee. He was put on the ballot to demonstrate to the South that, listen, I'm willing to work with you. I'm so willing to work with you that the second in command will be a Democrat and a Southerner. Is it going? Okay. He had no personal following, so he wasn't very well known. In other words, he had no prestige or political capital. No real party organization. So all of these things are sort of related right here. At first, he wanted to cooperate with the Republicans, but he had two objectives, basically: union, bringing the Union back together in the same way that Lincoln understood it, and freedom for the recent slaves. Wanted to ensure that that was possible. And his plan was announced on May 29th of 1865. So one of the things that caught the attention of radical Republicans, that this guy really wasn't going to be very effective or forthcoming, and really not really cooperative with the Republican-led Congress at the time, was his pardon and amnesty. So basically, he said that any former Confederate leader, if they came and asked for a pardon personally and basically pledged an oath to him and asked for forgiveness, that they would have complete amnesty. All right, so people are just being let off the hook for what a lot of people in the North perceived as treason. The other thing that he's going to do is that he is going to effectively undermine the 13th Amendment. Right. First and foremost, he argues against black suffrage, the right to vote. That's what suffrage means. And then he allows former Confederate officers to become elected officials. This was something that the radical Republicans were very much against. So not only is he giving them amnesty, he's also allowing them to become elected officials. And then the enaction of what were referred to as black codes were put forward as these former Confederate leaders are getting into political office. They're enacting what are called black codes. And so let me play this clip for you right here to give you an idea of what black codes were.